This video is just going to contain plants that have been the lowest maintenance plants in this garden project here in Raleigh. These are things that have been in the ground 5 years or more in some cases and have required the least amount of overall work. I'll give you the basic premise in this garden for the work that we do on a kind of a year-round basis. We keep it well weeded. We keep everything well mulched. We water when things are abnormally dry, but we don't have to do a heck of a lot of watering here because we have so much organic material that it's holding a lot of water in place. And we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, and we get kind of regular rainfall throughout the year. And we fertilize once a year with an organic fertilizer in the spring, and that is it. That's the total maintenance. And so I'm going to start this video with this Dragon Prince cryptomeria because it has been right at the top of the list of low maintenance plants. This plant has required absolutely nothing from us. I have let a vine grow on the back of it for one season and created a little bit of a flat spot back there. I've got the vine cut away from it now and it'll fill back in on its own, but I didn't have to do anything to recover from that other than get the vine off the back of it. But just an incredibly low maintenance plants. We know cryptomeria like Yoshino cryptomeria get 50 feet tall, 60 feet tall. This is a super compact version of cryptomeria that can just be planted as a foundation plant on a corner foundation and a low hedging situation if you wanted to, have a boxwood kind of alternative to it. But this plant, keep in mind, went in the ground 5 to 6 years ago and has never been pruned. This is October Magic Ruby Camellia. This is a Camellia sasanqua. It's a fall blooming camellia. Has reddish burgundy flowers on it. We would call it red, but a little bit burgundy hue to it as well. These will bloom. For us, we just need cool nights in the fall, so it could start as early as early October, but more typically it's toward November when they kind of come into full flower. This plant was one of the very first plants. This one and the cryptomeria, the Dragon Prince cryptomeria, were two of the first plants that went in on this project when we built the shed back here. This plant occasionally will get some sort of branch, maybe this one right here, where it comes up and out, and I'll come in here and cut it back. But that's happened, once a year since it went in the ground, and it was like 3 or 4 cuts, bing, 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 and done for the year. And this is how this plant has grown. So we're used to camellias in general getting big, big, big. But the breeding on this, the foliage is incredible. Dark green, shiny foliage, no spots on it. A lot of older Camellia sasanqua varieties get lots of little leaf spot issues. And then this compact habit. And you see how it almost grows like a mushroom kind of shape to it. It flat tops itself. We haven't done this. This is just how this plant is grown. It's getting a hair wider at this point than I can contain it in this particular spot. So at some point, I'm going to give it a bit of a haircut back. I'm not going to do it this year. It grows slow enough that even though this will eventually be maybe a slight problem, it's still several years away. Even after all this time, it's still several years away. So again, this is one that I put near the top of my list. This one's going to require part shade, and where I've got this planted, it's getting a lot of sun, a lot of direct sun on it until maybe 1 in the afternoon, and then it's going into some shade in the afternoon, and that's kept it compact like this. So also putting a plant in the right place may also lower the maintenance on it. The golden Oakland holly has definitely been near zero maintenance since this went in. This was one of the first plants that actually was planted here in the garden. It was about 2.5 feet tall when it went in, and now I think it's tipping about 10 feet tall up there. There's some sun on the very top of it. I've made 2 cuts on this shrub since it was put in. It's in a hair too much shade back here. So the leader has stretched a little bit on us the last 2 years, and I've made 1 cut at the end of the winter the last 2 years to just kind of control the height on it and keep it from stretching up there into, again, what is a little bit too low of light. There's a green Oakland holly as well. This is the variegated one, or the golden Oakland holly. Really fantastic ornamental plant. It flowers, berries, does all the things you'd expect from one of these hollies. But look how narrow it has stayed. I think this is the kind of key here. If I had a Nellie Stevens holly here or some of the other older varieties of upright hollies, it would definitely be way wider at the base. It would still be pyramidal, but it would be way wider than this. This one has stayed this narrow. It's 10 feet wide and you know, maybe 5 feet or 10 feet tall and maybe 5 feet wide, 4 to 5 feet wide after 5 years with zero pruning on it. I could shear it if I wanted to. I could shear it even narrower than this, but I've kind of just not had to do anything to it. Really, really nice. It hasn't really had any extra water. You know, we just keep it mulched and let it go. Again, I think it would be a little bit happier in a hair more sun than we have it in back here, but look, there's no more than a half a day's sun here, and look how good it looks. One of the main things about keeping something low maintenance in the garden is putting it in the right place. If you know the plant's going to get big in the future, you need to have it in a space where it can fill that space out in time. Otherwise, you're going to run into maintenance very early on. If you're putting plants that get 3 feet tall, you know, or get 6 feet tall under a 3-foot window, you know, eventually that's going to turn into maintenance. Even if it's a low maintenance plant by its own nature, it eventually will just become maintenance in the future. We found a great spot for this highlights arborvitae, and this has been a real standout in the garden. It's been several years planted in this space. It was about a third the height it is now when it went in originally. It's a little bit hot here in the southeast for these Thuja occidentalis. They're native to the northeast United States and up into Canada. Highest points in Appalachia as well. So they don't necessarily want to be in, you know, the hottest places in our gardens, but we do need a lot of sun on it to keep this gold color on it, which is quite beautiful. Sun's coming up right now on this plant, and it's going to get about 6 hours of direct sun. Then it's going to go into a little bit of shade in the afternoon. Our highly amended soil here keeps moisture around it, keeps the roots cool. We've got some ajuga planted around the back of it. We've got some Solomon seal planted on the other side of it. We're keeping the roots cool, getting enough sun on it to keep it yellow, and look how happy this plant is. It hasn't been touched one time other than me doing this because it's super, super soft to the touch in the 5 years or so that it's been in the ground. This is another one of my favorite plants in the Raleigh garden. Was number one, it hasn't been touched. It's in the 5 years or so it's been in this spot. It also is solving a bit of a problem for us in that this bank where I'm standing here on the driveway, it actually comes up about 2.5 feet into the front garden, and this little slope across here has been problematic since day one. It's really really hard to keep things watered here, and juniper just is the perfect plant to put here. This is Golden Joy. It'll eventually get a hair too wide and come out here on the driveway a little bit and need to be pruned a bit. But in 5 years, this is as wide as it's gotten. It's about 2 feet tall at this point and maybe 3 feet in width. In maybe 2 years, I'm going to have to make about 3 cuts on it. And that's what's coming up on it. So I really love this plant. It's actually pretty soft textured. Some junipers can be a bit prickly and make you a little bit itchy, honestly, if you're having to spend any time messing around with them. But this is just this bright pop of color here in the front garden. It's going to need a lot of sun. The more sun, the more color on this. Again, junipers, you know, if I'm picking plants, if I'm looking for a conifer to solve a tough situation where it's dry, where it's sunny, where it's hot, where there's a bank, that kind of thing, I'm probably going to lean toward junipers overall above other conifers. We have really tested this next plant. This is a Bigfoot cleyera, and cleyera is a great screening plant. There are cleyera that stays smaller. We are using some Leanne cleyera in the front garden that we're keeping smaller intentionally. We're actually creating a little bit of maintenance in a very low maintenance plant. This one though, we have just as a backdrop screen to the front garden, so we can't really see up the street from inside of our garden. And this plant is taking a ton of abuse. We've got a neighbor has a maple here, and the roots, I'm standing on the surface roots right now that are running right through that plant. So this plant is not getting enough water, not getting enough light. It would definitely prefer more sun than it's getting. I've got a viburnum on the other side that I need to cut a couple of branches off of, and this plant is just thriving in this condition. It hasn't been cut, hasn't been pruned, hasn't been paid attention to in the 5 years or so that it's been in the ground. And it's just a beautiful plant. This plant, it's flushing right now in the spring, and the way I can really tell that it's not getting quite enough light is normally it would have a bit of a bronze hue to the new growth on it, but it's mostly just green because it's again in slightly lower light. But if you're looking for a plant for a mixed border screen, I talk frequently about using a mixed border screen, not trying to find one plant to solve the entire border, but getting multiple different things. This is a great solution in that. It's very fast growing. It would have been much faster growing and much larger right now had we give it some additional water and attention, and the maple not have been, you know, robbing it of water and robbing it of nutrients this entire time. But this plant's just been a standout. It's over here in the corner. We don't have to think about it. It gets fertilized once a year. You know, we try to keep weeds away from it, but we don't even make it to this side of the garden all that much. And it's just easy, an easy plant that solves a screening issue in your garden and can compete in a tough situation. Next up is this Sarcocoa or sweet box. There's actually quite a few species of sweet box that we can use in our gardens. Some only get this tall if you're looking for almost a ground cover like evergreen like this, and then others that can get 2 and 3 feet tall and maybe even a little bit taller. They have this white flowers typically, sometimes other color flowers as well, but mostly white flowers you'll see that bloom along the stems in the late winter time, and they're incredibly fragrant. And one of our absolute lowest maintenance plants in this entire garden. There are 3 of them planted here. They were very small 1-gallon plants, and we planted them all 3. It now looks like it's one plant. It has not been pruned, I don't think. I mean, we had something else back here that was on top of it, and that may have led me to, oh, I can see one cut that I made here last year, because I think it was doing something weird on this side because it had something laying on top of it. But other than that, we haven't had to prune it at all. Eventually, because we planted 3 plants here, it's going to kind of continue to spread out a bit, and we will have to add a little bit of control to it. But that's our self-inflicted maintenance. Steph and I are walking through the garden going, you know, talking about that Shasta viburnum that I showed you that's above the Bigfoot cleyera over there. We've tree formed that plant, and we've created maintenance out of what is a low maintenance plant. And we've done that on a few things here in the garden. We're just trying to use the plants in various ways, you know, tree forming things, making things more interesting to us in whatever ways, putting them in slightly too small a space. That kind of thing is creating maintenance around what are low maintenance plants. But this plant, again, 5 years or so in the ground here at this point, and the 3 of these plants have caused us 0 maintenance outside of our, again, just normal, making sure the garden's weeded, mulched, fertilized, and that kind of thing. And it's incredibly rewarding because in the wintertime, all these hosta and a lot of this other deciduous things kind of go to sleep around it, and this thing becomes the star of the garden, and then it blooms at a time of year when virtually nothing else is flowering. Another incredibly low maintenance plant here in the garden is this Nandina domestica called Otafuku. We need to point out real quick that it doesn't flower, doesn't produce any berries. It's completely void of being, you know, a pest here in the garden or a pest here in our area at all. Otafuku is variegated. And so as the new growth is coming out here in the spring, it has a variegation on it. But it's very similar to firepower nandina, which turns bright like fire engine red in the wintertime. This one does the exact same thing. We're filming this in the spring, and the red has kind of, you know, the green comes back in the leaves, and then and all the new growth has variegation on it. The other one that may be even better than firepower though is blush pink, which we also have here in the Raleigh garden. Blush pink turns the fire engine red like firepower does. And then as it's flushing out here in the spring, has this kind of pink hue to the new growth. So it has like a whole extra season that it does in the garden. But no matter which one you find, blush pink, firepower, Otafuku here, if you can find this variegated one, this one's fairly rare out in the trade. They're all just perfect ornamental plants because they show up, they change seasonally, you know, add color to the garden, don't get in the way of anything else. And pretty much when I do need to prune this, and sometime in the future I'll probably need to prune it, I can basically cut these in half and just have them flush back out. This one would like more sun, and I will tell you, you'll get more red color than we do here in the Raleigh garden if you have them in the full sun. This one you can see is a little bit thin because of that. It probably needs just a little bit of pruning on it to make it slightly more compact. it would prefer, again, to be out in more sun. But I haven't touched this plant in 5 years since it went in the ground. We've talked about it a few times over that time on the channel, but other than that, you know, just absolutely no maintenance whatsoever. This is Yewtopia plum yew, or Cephalotaxis Harringtonia. Cephalotaxis is a great group of low maintenance plants. These are conifers that will take light shade or even darker shaded spaces in your garden. They're incredibly drought tolerant once they're established, amazingly drought tolerant. So this is Yewtopia. Yewtopia kind of sits in the 2 to 3 foot range, a little bit wider than tall. There are prostrate Cephalotaxis, the ones that grow right across the ground. We have one called Fritz Huber here in the garden that's a little bit taller than Prostrata, probably like this. Prostrata can get super, super close to the ground. Again, Yewtopia fits in this kind of middle size range. There's fastigiate plum yews that just literally go straight up and down like sky pencil hollies, but will go in some shade that sky pencil hollies wouldn't go in, and become much more drought tolerant overall. About the only maintenance you'll have on these, because they grow so thick and lush and they're in shady spaces, is we have an oak tree above us and the oak leaves end up in the middle of it. So once a year, you know, in the spring, you can go through and pull some of those oak leaves out of it. But if you're in zone 6 plus, these are just the greatest plants. They're deer resistant, where regular yews, Cephalotaxis means yew-like, okay? Deer don't eat these, but they do eat yews, which is kind of interesting. But they do look like yews in the landscape, and they'll take shade, they'll take dry conditions, and they just require zero maintenance to keep them looking good. I'm gonna give the last one to Aucuba in general. We have maybe 10 different Aucuba here in the Raleigh garden at this point, and they're all extremely low maintenance. They do need to go in the right spot. They will not tolerate all day sun, and they really don't want to be in deep, deep shade either. So that middle ground is kind of perfect. Sun comes up and over the house, and this Hosaba Hoshifu is this variety, was planted as a quart pot about 5 years ago. It was this tall when it went in the ground, and this was just a big wide open space. This Vitex and the magnolia behind me and all these things were this big when they went in the ground, and this thing is really thriving back here. So it's got consistent moist soil and it's in part shade. If you find that kind of combo, these Aucuba are just fantastic plants. They are zones. You'll see zone 6 on them. If you're in zone 6A, you're probably going to want to put them in some sort of pocket where they're slightly protected, not a lot of winter wind on them and that kind of thing. We get a lot of red berries out here because we do have male and female plants out here in the landscape. And this variegation on this one is beautiful. It's very striking. It's a different type of leaf. You'll see some of the Aucuba have much broader leaves than this. This one has this narrow leaf with a lot of spotting. Some of the spotting on some of the varieties will be more limited. Sometimes there'll be yellow striping, yellow spots in the middle. Just an incredible, a lot of choices if you're out shopping for Aucuba, especially if you're looking in places that have unusual plants or rare plants, that kind of thing. But this plant has had zero maintenance on it in 5 years. And when I say zero, I truly mean zero. At some point, I'll probably need to size control this. This one will reach 5 to 6 feet, something like that. We have the Vitex limbed up and over it. So right now it looks awkward, but during the season, this Vitex will have all its limbs up here. And this will be the understory plant, because we just cut on that. But I definitely put Aucuba right at the top of the list of just needing really nothing from you. Again, you can create maintenance in your garden, and we have here, by overcrowding things, by putting things in places they don't belong. You know, if you pick the right plant for the right place, this list that we've given you here, you can go years and years and years without having to do any maintenance on it. Keep in mind, shrubs do run out of steam. You know, I do a lot of consultation work. You can sign up for consultations over on the website. And when I'm doing consultations, if you send me the photos in advance, I can open those photos a lot of times and kind of tell how old the shrubs are. You know, when you get to 15 to 20, 25 years, they do start to look a little bit tired, and sometimes they need to be ultimately be cut back to the ground or replaced sometime in the future. But hopefully we could get that first 5 to 10 to 15 years out of them without having to do a heck of a lot of maintenance on them before those ultimate, future maintenance issues come to light ultimately. But again, small amount of mulch, small amount of mulching, small amount of fertilizing, small amount of weeding, and the plants that we've shown you in this video can really perform without having to think about them otherwise. Thanks for watching.